Hello guys, at Gilgamesh the Gamer here. On today's video I'm going to give you guys a guide on how to build Sakubo Tsukuyomi. Before we begin, let's talk a little about Sakubo. Sakubo Tsukuyomi is a fun and complex character to play. Her other form is far better than this. Her gen zone is Shinu. Her damage attribute is Shadow, her combat resources is Divine Grace, she is a grade A, her range is melee. In order to utilize Sakubo Tsukuyomi to her full potential, you should know how her mechanism works. So let's begin the guide. Skills or mechanism. Tsukuyomi normal attack, also known as Saku slash, and what it does is that Tsukuyomi continuously slashes at the enemy using Saku, dealing shadow damage equal to 221.9% of attack in total. You should also keep note that any normal attack that hits an enemy grants you some amount of Divine Grace. Skill 1, also known as Lunar Arc Slash, and what it does is that Tsukuyomi slashes continuously and throws Saku at the enemy, dealing shadow DMG equal to 201.8% of ATK in total. You should also keep note that each hits grant you 7 Divine Grace. Skill 2, also known as Sakubo, Lunar Eclipse, and what it does is that Tsukuyomi dashes forward, dealing shadow damage to enemies. You should also know that when Sakubo Tsukuyomi, when Divine Grace is at max, Saku, Lunar Eclipse is replaced by Bo, Lunar Eclipse, which expends all Divine Grace when cast. And what the new enhanced skill 2 does is that Tsukuyomi deals shadow damage equal to 339.7% of attack in total, and enemies hit are also afflicted with trauma for 16 seconds. And what trauma does is that it deals shadow DMG equal to 52% of attack every 3 seconds for 16 seconds. Skill 3, also known as Sakubo, Moonlit Night, and what it does is that tapping Skill 3 continuously will make Sakubo use Iaido to deal shadow DMG to the enemy and enemies with trauma around them, dealing shadow damage equal to 62.7% of attack. You should also keep note that when Divine Grace is at max, Saku, Moonlit Night, is replaced by Bo, Moonlit Night, which expends all Divine Grace when cast, and what the new enhanced Skill 3 does is that Tsukuyomi charges her attack in order to cast a Bo Light Blade, which deals shadow damage equal to 625.1% of attack. Hold down the skill button to charge the skill up to 3 times, with non-skill damage increased by 30% when the skill is charged. Tsukuyomi ultimate skill, also known as Moonwalk Strike, and what it does is that Tsukuyomi slashes at the target in front of her, dealing shadow damage equal to attack in total. Enemies hit are afflicted with trauma for 10 seconds, and each time an enemy hit is landed, all members of the team are granted 30 Divine Grace. And what the trauma does is that it deals shadow damage equal to 108% of attack every 3 seconds for 10 seconds. Using this skill grants an 8% ultimate skill charge. When trauma is inflicted on an enemy, the effect can trigger once every 2 seconds. Functor. The best Functor for Sakubo Tsukuyomi is Shikigami Itsumade, and what it does is that it enhances Skill 3 from Sakubo Moonlit Night to Sakubo Final Moon, and what this new skill does is that when Divine Grace is at max, the cooldown of the new enhanced Skill 3 is reset and it charges 50% more quickly. Hits landed with the secondary light blades deal 12% more damage. Sigils. The best sigil for Sakubo Tsukuyomi is Philosopher Fantasies and Dark Plague. And why does this 2 sigil does that make it the best? Let's start with Philosopher Fantasies, is that it increases Divine Grace, mods skill damage by 10%, and it makes Sakubo gains 1 Divine Grace every second. While Dark Plague increases shadow damage by 10% and also deals an additional damage that ignores defense when dealing shadow damage to enemies. The sigil positioning for Dark Plague is Postian 1, 3 and 5, while Philosopher's Fantasies is 2, 4 and 6. Aether Code. The best recommended code for Sakubo Tsukuyomi is the All-Red Aether Code, and why it is the best is that the first Aether Code increases the non-damage of hits landed with Bo, which is the enhanced version of Skill 2 and Skill 3, by 30%. The second Red Aether Code is that each time the enemy is defeated using Bo, the remaining cooldown time of the skill is shortened by 30%, and the mod enters 0 time for 4 seconds. While the third Red Aether Code is that when in 0 time, increases Divine Grace charge speed by 100%. This Aether Code is recommended when you are playing Sakubo Tsukuyomi as a DPS, while the other recommended Aether Code is 1 red, 1 blue and 1 yellow. This is only recommended when you are playing her as a sub DPS or just eye controlled. This marks the end of this guide. You can give this video a like and also don't forget to press the subscribe button to support me. If you have anything to say, you can leave a comment below. I will respond you. See you guys next time.